You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy J. Ludis, and today we have someone who I recently connected with, but realized have a great connection with. She is a former member of the Air Force, where she spent 21 years as a nurse, then turned author with 2 self-published books, and then the leader of her Rebel LLC, where she puts her skills into practice, creating the Transitioning Warrior, which creates support and opportunities to help coach veterans in a number of incredible ways, and then also publishing Pathfinders, where she helps authors self-publish their books and navigate the process because she walked it herself. And through the entire journey, guys, she also leads her own podcast titled Beyond the Front Line, helping enlighten, teach, and inspire those transitioning not just from the military, but in life as well. Everyone, I'm excited to have you here. I give you Donna Hoffmeyer. Donna, welcome to the show, and I'm excited for it. Thank you for being here.
Hey, my head's fat. I feel like I gotta kick it through the door now. Like, jeez.
That's awesome. But no, seriously, like I said, like you and I talked last week, thanks to Bianca. Shout out to Bianca right now. She's a connection right here. But just in our discussion last week, I think we tried hopping on for maybe scheduled a half hour out, but probably talk for 2 hours. Because the connection was there on just a number of areas. But let's give people an eye into your world right now. So there's the Transitioning Warrior, there's Rebel LLC, there's the publishing aspect. Tell them about yourself. Where did all this begin, especially the 21 years in the military with the Air Force?
Yeah, so it was funny because the military, I'll always joke and say that my life is kind of serendipitous and a lot of happenstances. And it was when I was in nursing school, when I first got into college, it was like, you can get a job anywhere. And, as soon as you walk out the door, they're going to hire you. That was my freshman year. By the time we're hitting the end of my junior year, there was a big shift in how they were handling nursing. And they were asking for less 4-year degree nurses.
Okay.
Because they wanted to do what they call team nursing, which still exists today. But they were starting this idea of team nursing. And when you have a team and you have 1 4-year degree and then you have a whole team of LPN CNAs, you don't need as many BSNs, right? So that was their theory. I will tell you that it didn't result in them needing less BSNs, but that was their idea at the time. Okay. And I got caught in that. And so here my friends are sending out resumes, and back then we were mailing them, and they were getting them mailed back. And on the sticky note, it said, don't have your friends send their resume. We have no more graduate nurse program. We're downsizing. We don't need as many BSNs. So we are all coming in as seniors looking at no jobs. I mean, my friends were starting to get jobs at like nursing homes and where they wanted to be in the clinical setting. So I was watching all this and I'm like, holy cow, like, what do I do? And so I only knew a couple things. I knew that I would like to get paid because I was sick of being a starving college student. Yep. And I wanted to travel. And that was literally the only 2 things I knew. That was it. And so looking at my options, the Peace Corps was there and the military was there, and only one of them was paying. True. And, I would love to say like it was for God and country and I went in there, but it was for survival and I wanted to travel, right? That was the real part. And then I joined, and that's when I learned, the service before self, excellence in all we do and all our ethos. And I was taught why we're really there, right? So when it came down to it, I was like, okay, I'll give the military a whirl. My family was like, you what? And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And we didn't come from a military family. I mean, my dad did 2 years when he was drafted. And that was kind of it. I had an uncle that did a little time. There was no big, you should join the military. Yeah. I just did it because there was really nothing out there for me. So that started what I didn't realize was going to turn into an entire career. Yeah. Had some breaks here and there, which I think a lot of people do, but I had a short break for about 4 years and came back, and then ended up being afforded to retire out of the military. And came out of there, great career, did some really cool things. Flight nurse, obstetrical nurse,
Mhm.
readiness officer. I mean, I did all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the entire thing, I walked out and said, I don't want another boss. That
Yeah.
was fun. I honor that time. I have a lot of respect for all my veteran friends, but I was kind of done doing stuff with other people's ideas. And
Mm.
I was like, I want to put my ideas forth.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen at first because I was burnt. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I retired during COVID.
Okay.
And what I didn't know, so March 16th of 20, I guess that was 2020, we had come back from spring break with our kids. Ironically, I wasn't feeling well. And I was at work and I said, gosh, I don't really feel very good. And they're like, there's a bug going around, just go home and, you can come back a day or two when you feel better. And I said, okay, sounds good. So I didn't know.
Hmm.
It was two things. One, it was the day before my birthday.
Okay.
Two, it was the last time I wore my uniform. That was
Mm.
it.
Gotcha.
Because I retired in September 30th of 2020 and I never had my uniform on again because it was COVID and we were
Yeah.
all working from home. And that was kind
Wow.
of the end of that. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And that came with like good and bad, right? It kind of
Yep.
actually started my transition early.
For sure.
Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't have a retirement. I didn't have any pomp and circumstance. It was just one day I was, you know,
Yep.
in the military, and then the next day I was just Mrs. Hoffmeyer, out of the
Yeah.
military.
Gotcha.
And that's a little bit of a mind jack.
Yeah. For sure. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so weirdly through my last years, again, and I'm definitely glossing over a lot of, points, but
Hmm.
sometimes when I get really stressed, one of my things to do is find constructive outlets,
Okay.
and not necessarily consciously, but I think I look back going, oh, that was a smart thing to do. At least I
Mm.
channeled it productively. And
Yeah.
so in 2017, this was a random, absolutely random thing that ended up launching part of my business. Somebody reached out to me. We were talking about veterans needing a new mission when they got out of the military. And that
Mm.
resonated with me. Like it made sense, right? Because we're all very mission driven. And I said, yeah, you're right. And he said, you should write a book with me.
Mm.
I give some advice to the audience. Don't ever jump in and write a book with somebody that you've never met and
Mm.
don't know anything about. That is definitely not the smartest thing you should do.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
But I did it and I don't regret it.
Yep.
But where I thought I would be the one learning and from the person who actually had written before, and I thought I
Yep.
would just be the back seat here, just kind of taking it all in. I
Yep.
ended up being the one finishing it out. I ended up finding the editor, doing everything,
Wow.
getting it to publication, all by trial by fire. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing. I had no idea what was going on. But every single time I would run into like what I thought was like this wall or
Yep.
like I'm going to fall into the water, there would be something that would come up there to let my foot land
Wow.
solid.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so, like, for example, I was trying to figure out I knew I had to do copyright, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, God, I'm just scratching my head. And I was outside one day, and my neighbor across the street, our sons were friends,
Yep.
and he just happened to be outside. And he goes, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, not much. I go, I'm just kind of scratching my head right now. I go, I'm just trying to figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
And he asked what, and I happened to tell him, I'm writing this book. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no business doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. And I tell him the story of trying to figure out how to do copyright, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm.
And he goes, come with me. What I didn't know, he was a JAG officer in the military. He was a
Okay.
lawyer in the military. But what I didn't know is that he used to own a small publishing company.
Okay.
And he
Gotcha.
literally walked me through getting my Library of Congress and my copyright and stuff. And I was like, oh, that I could repeat that story
Yeah.
5 times on how this book came to be. Like it
Yeah.
was wild, crazy, serendipitous things that were happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily realize it because I was so stressed trying to
Mm.
do this. But
Yep.
when I looked back, I was like, how did I do that? And how
Yeah.
did I not get caught into the world of hybrid publishing where somebody's like, pay me this money and I'll give you a book,
Right.
So I did. I got it done. Scroll back ahead. Um, when I retired, I am burned. I'm like sitting there like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What had happened about 3 or 4 months prior to my retirement, maybe about 5 months prior to my retirement,
Hmm.
when COVID started, I'm kind of sarcastic by nature, and I am a big believer that humor kind
Yep.
of diffuses a lot of stuff, right? Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that we'll get upset over that in the big picture, it kind of
Yep.
silly, right?
For sure.
So humor is, to me, is just a good way of kind of diffusing that.
Yeah.
And when COVID started, literally the next day, I remember going, oh my God, we better laugh because we're all going to cry. We don't know how long this is going to last.
I get that.
We don't know anything, right? And so I started writing on Facebook pandemic parodies.
Okay.
And all it was me kind of writing about what was going on during the day. It was
Yep.
just fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm clacking away, and each night I'd write a post, and it was just random. It was like, oh, now we have toilet paper gate, and my neighbors and I are all comparing, who's got the
Mhm.
most toilet paper. And,
Yeah.
when my husband went to the grocery store, he's like, is there anything you need? I'm like, buy chocolate. Like, it was just dumb stuff. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get chocolate again. Like,
Yeah.
who thinks this, right? So these were the stories that kept happening.
Yep.
And of course, we have our kids at home, we're at home. It was wild, right?
Yeah.
So these stories start coming out. It was my stress relief,
Yeah.
but I did it intentionally just to make my friends laugh, right? I was
Yeah.
like, hey, we all might as well have a good laugh. And that's what started happening. My
Yeah.
friends would be like, oh my God, Donna, in the morning, we like read this over coffee and we just start laughing.
It's
And I'm
awesome.
like, well, good. I'm glad my family's funny. That's great.
There you go.
That was the end of it, right? So 86 days go by, and I'm like, I got to retire. I'm writing these at 1 and 2 in the morning, and I'm like, I have got to get sleep. I've got to close out all my stuff, and I have got to retire. And I'm trying to retire during COVID, which means remote. Like
Yeah.
nobody's answering you, and it's just chaos, right?
Right.
Okay, so I stopped the post, and then all of a sudden, my friends are like, "Are you writing anymore?" And I said, "Girl, no." I said, "I
Yeah.
got to retire." I said, "I'm tired." And some of my friends, knew I'd written a book, and they're like, you should write a book on this. I'm like, oh God, no. I said, this is just me being sarcastic.
Yeah.
And they kept kind of pushing on me. So I went to my editor, and my editor is like more like historian,
Okay.
archaeological, like nonfiction, like that kind of side, right?
Yeah.
And I'm more nerdy. And so I said, hey, Floyd, people are pushing on me to make this into a book. And he's like, do it.
Yeah.
I was like, you gonna edit this? Because this is like family comedy. He's like, oh no, I welcome it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
That's
So
awesome.
I went through, and now I understand why people hashtag stuff, because I didn't. And I had to go find all those posts, and that was painful. But I
Gotcha.
went and dug out all 86 posts, reformatted them, and I had to decide, am I going to weave a whole story, or am I going to leave it raw? And this is
Yeah.
literally like day to day, the chaos that was happening. And I chose to leave it kind of raw.
Yeah.
I toned it down a little because my daughter drew pictures. She was 8 at the time, and she drew stick figure pictures on every day. We would read the story. She'd pick out something and she'd draw a picture.
Nice.
But it was coming from a stressed out parent
Yeah.
perspective.
Right.
And she said, Mommy, you can't have swear words in here.
That's
And I
funny.
went, well, I can, but all right, for her sake, I toned it down a little bit. And so it looks like a fun kid book. Like the
Yeah.
cover is like bright colors, and it's like a cartoon COVID. But I tell people, like, it's from a very stressed out working mom perspective.
Yeah.
And there's way too many references to drinking in there, and it shouldn't be in an elementary school.
That's awesome.
But my friends actually bought the book, and they said, we bought a couple copies and we're saving it. And I'm like, for like our kids, because this is legacy to what
It's
was
true.
going on at the time.
Very
And I
true.
never thought of it. I mean,
Yeah.
really, it just was a book that wasn't supposed to be a book. And
Yeah.
it's a light read. It's not going to win any Pulitzer Prize by any stretch, but it just is a memory of the time. So, anyways, long story short, one of my
Yeah.
friends I gave it to, he was a therapist, and he grabs the book and he holds it and he's looking at me and he goes, this is going to help so many people. And I was
Yeah.
like,
It's awesome.
I did not get it. I looked at him, I'm like, it's snarky comedy, like from a stressed out mom.
Yep.
Not sure who it's going to therapeutically help. Well, I ate my words. A
Yeah.
year later, a friend of mine gets the book. She was the CEO of a business,
Okay.
and I happened to be home, and she was visiting my parents, and her husband says to me, "Hey, ask Mary how she liked your book. She read it." And I
Yeah.
went, "Oh." I go, "Did you get a chuckle?" And before she could answer, she smirked, and he goes, "No, she bawled like a baby." And I went, "What?" But you weren't supposed to cry. And she goes, "There was so much going on during that time.
Hmm.
Like every day we were changing the rules, like every single day." And she goes, "We did not have time to process
Yeah.
anything."
Right.
And she goes, "And here I am reading your book and I'm going back." And she goes, "That was better than a therapy session." And I
Yeah.
was like,
That's
so I was
awesome.
eating my word. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened the first 6 months when I got out was I focused on formatting the book and getting it out, getting it published and
Yep.
kind of doing that. But then at the same time, like I wasn't doing anything else. I was burned. And
No, for
so
sure.
people were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm painting rocks." And they're like laughing at me. Like, "No, really, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm painting rocks and I'm
Yeah.
doing those sadistic bedazzle things that you like. I don't even understand why I'm doing them because I hate them, but I'm
Yeah.
just doing something."
I
And
get
it was, huh?
I get you. No, like, but I love that, and for your entire story, I'll do this to connect the dots for viewers right now.
Yeah.
Everything that you just said is spot on. And so I love the fact that you had that realization or revelation that your book was going to impact others that went through COVID and future for kids now that are going to read that when they're like, oh my goodness, I needed this because they went through it at a young age. But that whole concept of you transitioning out of the military, one, going into the military, two, because you were in a sense, you wanted to help people. You wanted to be a nurse. You wanted to find some aspect there, and it was the opportunity that could pay you and travel. Mark them off the list. But fast forward to transitioning out of the military during COVID. I've always said this for COVID, and as we've grown 100%, it's come to light where COVID, yes, was a terrible moment, but at the same time, it was a pivot moment. And if you didn't pivot, you'd be stuck in burnout. So all of us were sitting there like, oh my goodness, what are we supposed to do? Because all of the rules got dropped on us. But the only opportunity we had was to go inward, creativity. And so you were just like, I'm just going to have fun. So
Yeah.
joy comes to light and it then brings joy to other people. So those transitioning moments that you now help people with, not just veterans, but people with now, it's so incredible because it's such a lighthearted view. And that's what your book was. It was a lighthearted view on the stress we all went through for that matter.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this. You're bringing it up, but it was a long time later that I was either I had written an article or I don't remember when there was some conversation, and there, you have these aha moments sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of things. And what I realized was exactly what you just said. When
Yep.
I was writing those stories, I had to look for the funny, right? Because
Yep.
that was the whole point, was to make people laugh. So my focus went to the funny.
Yep.
It's the same idea of like somebody goes to buy a car and they're like, I'm going to buy the red Jeep, because it's unique. And the next thing you know, you see 100 red Jeeps, right? Because your
Yeah. It's
focus
true.
goes there, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I will write about this. Again, didn't know I was doing a book, but my goal was just to make people laugh because it was so stressful. We were
Mm.
probably with a weird family that like I welcomed the block.
Yeah.
I loved that I could be in meetings on the phone and then hang the phone up and I was
Yep.
in my house.
Yeah.
I welcomed the quiet because my life was just so chaotic and stressful that I was like, I'll take a break. That's good.
Yep.
Um, but it but I could have had that break and be like, oh my God, now what? But instead, when my kids come downstairs and my son says, hey, mom, did you know when that gunk gets stuck on the floss, it gets really hard? And my first looked at him and I'm like, why are you saying that? And because my daughter flossed her teeth with those little flossers and threw it back in the
Oh
bag.
no way.
And he pulls my out and he's noticing the flosses real like stuff. I'm like, oh really? And then instead of like, God help us, it was like, oh, that'll be funny to write
Yeah.
about, or
Right.
when they cut each other's hair, I could have lost my crap right there. And instead I was like, okay, we're gonna cut each other's hair, or how they figured out how to fake showers, like, and they admitted to it, or how my son decided my makeup could be used for lifting fingerprints. And yeah, I mean that's all the things that were going on. And I had a choice, right? I could get
Yeah.
upset over that and be like,
Right.
oh my God, they're so bored and whatever. Or I could be like, okay, here we
Yeah.
go
Right.
again.
Exactly. No, for sure though. But
Yeah.
and that's what I love about it. But that's so cool because it's a mother's view of what was going on, but at the same
Yes.
time it connects to every single one of us connecting to your book. But it connects to every single one of us where that's what we all were dealing with, but not many people knew how to deal with it. A lot of
Yeah.
people would react rather than respond. You responded to it, but then at the same time, you had all this time. What am I going to do with it? You were already burnt out from the military,
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
where that's one of the things you help veterans with, for that matter, is how to deal with the burnout aspect. Shout out to Bianca with the resiliency aspect. But that
Hmm.
whole concept right there is my whole thing with burnout is we're so often focusing on everything external. So we're focusing, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? When we have this time now to go inward and figure out, what do I want to do? Not what am I supposed to do, what do I want to do? And that ends up being what you're supposed to do. And that's what you did, was just let me just use my time to write, for that matter.
That was a conversation that actually came up this morning. I was just talking with somebody, and it was a friend of mine, just left her job.
Mm-hmm.
And she, just this past week, and she goes, oh my God, I feel so liberated. I feel so free. And my comment to her was, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now you need to be very discerning about your intentions on the next thing. If you are realizing that you are financially okay without the 9 to 5, you need to protect that.
Yeah.
I said at all costs, because that is the only thing I knew coming out of the military. I never want another boss. I don't
Yeah.
want my ideas going to other people and
Mm.
watching them run it through a meat grinder, come out the other side and go, ta-da. And I'm like,
Right.
not even close.
Yeah.
I want control. I want meetings in the bathroom mirror. I want to go, ooh, I want to try this.
Mm.
I love that freedom. You know,
Yeah.
I relish that freedom, and I'm extremely discerning about
Good for you.
who gets to come into my circle to work
Yep.
with me.
Right. Yep.
And it's not, and I don't mean it arrogantly, because the reality is some people are just not in the same place, right?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just think that we, you and I have talked about this, right? Where we
Yep.
resonate, right?
Yeah. For sure.
And we resonate at all different levels. And so when things don't connect,
Mm-hmm.
in the military, when things don't connect, you strong arm it, like, oh, it's gonna
True.
connect. Like,
Yep.
hey, the cords only go this far. You're like, yeah, watch me.
Mm.
We're gonna make it connect, even though they're pulled to the max. It's not a good connection. It's, oh my God, it's very strained, but we did it.
Yeah.
Mission complete, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
I've learned coming out that strong arming is the last thing I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will be a liar to say there's not some days that I want to put my uniform on and go, let's get this done. But
Mm-hmm.
I also know that is not going to work.
I get that.
And working with the veterans and the first responders, I see them coming out. We have somebody that just came out about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and they have not transitioned. Somebody was talking to me, and they're like, they got very inflamed by a conversation. And I said, well, the bottom line is, like, they haven't transitioned yet.
Yeah.
And initially they were like, oh, they got out like over a year ago. And I went, doesn't mean they transitioned. I
For sure.
said, they're still coming out, and they're strong army. They're dominating the conversation. They're telling you what they know.
Yep.
They're going to make, this, that, the other thing. Right. I said, they haven't transitioned. And they sat back and they're like, you're absolutely right. And I said, but you have to recognize and honor that, because if you don't, you'll be very, like, annoyed, mad, frustrated. And my whole advocacy side, like the nonprofit side of my world, is all about that. I mean, really both
Yeah.
sides are, but it's
It's true.
all about the advocacy and meeting them where they're at. And sometimes it's not a place that I really want to meet. I'm like, oh Lord. But
Yeah.
we have to meet them where they're at and go, okay, that's where you are. This is the way we work, and you can join us,
Mm-hmm.
but some behaviors have to change in
Yep.
order to meet us,
Yeah.
we're going to come down, not all the way to where you're at, but we're going to come
Yep.
here and put a hand out.
For sure.
You can reach out for the ropes
Yep.
or not. That's your
Exactly.
choice, you know?
See, that's something you and I touched on last week when we talked. I think it's so important for listeners and viewers right now because coming from a military background, I have so many friends that went to the military, Marines, Coast Guard, the whole show, and now they're police officers, and they transitioned into a also similar, not similar in environment, but similar view where this is
Energy.
my routine. I've got to go for it, and if you have to, as you said, strong arm something, probably gonna have to strong arm something. They kind of go into something very similar. But to your point right there, which I think is so major, and it's something you are continuing to help and you want to help even more with, is when someone is transitioning out of the military, it is not the only option to just go into a police force, to go into a firefighter, to go into some form that's still somewhat like military regimented. And that's where companies nowadays need to also transition to do exactly what you said. Let's meet you where you're at and then elevate both of us. Because companies need to understand how military minds work because they can be so successful. That can be such an incredible skill set if you can apply it correctly into a corporation. But some people don't realize that, so they don't give the military person an opportunity. But for a military mind to understand how do I operate to get to that middle ground is also needed. And that's where you come and play with transitioning in whatever form. But this is what I believe was one of the key things we talked about last week, where how can I help more companies understand that this is a need area? Because it really is.
Yeah. And I think when we talked about the big companies, like big companies, they
Yeah.
all have like veteran programs, right?
Mhm.
And the reality of it is, like, I've really looked at this and thought through it, and I always have these thoughts in the back of my head that are processing, and I've watched, and the big companies, they have to unindoctrinate
Yeah.
the person, and they
Mhm.
have to reindoctrinate them into their corporate world or their company. And
Yeah.
that's not wrong. I'm not bashing
For
it.
sure. Mhm.
Those companies know, like, if we're going to get the work out of them, they have to believe in our business.
Mhm.
That's fine. But there's no, I don't have any interest in these really, really big companies because they've got their own programming and stuff.
Right. Yep.
But when you get to the middle and the lower, not lower, the middle and the smaller
All this.
businesses,
Yep. Exactly.
there's a piece that the big corporations miss out on. And that's what you
Mhm.
just said.
Yep.
They don't meet the person where they're at. They're just
Yeah.
like, look, those behaviors do not work. These are the behaviors you need. And that's how you're going to be successful in our company.
Mm.
And I'm like, but where's this? Where's that step?
Right.
And this step I think is critical. And the
Mm.
reason why it's critical is because this step is where the veterans and first responders can lose value and purpose.
Yeah.
So they come out of the military and they're here, and then they go sit. Let's just say they jump in and they find this corporate job,
Mhm.
and they're here now. And then you hear these crazy stories,
Yeah.
like the senior officer that retired went into his corporate job and made the secretary cry,
Mm.
and they have to explain to him, you don't talk at her, you
Yeah.
like, she has a job, you don't get to, she's not your personal assistant. Even if she was, you don't talk to her that way.
Mhm.
Like, different culture, right? So I feel like they miss
Yeah.
this. Like, how do
Right.
I meet you? See where you're at.
Mhm.
Yes, we'll teach you the skills you need here, but we're going to help you grow. We're going to
Mhm.
help you along the way and grow. And I'm not saying every program doesn't
Yeah.
do that. I'm
For
just
sure.
saying that in the big ones, I feel like there's a piece missing. So,
Yeah.
however, with the big companies, there's a lot more room for attrition, right? So if that person
Mhm.
doesn't work out, okay, we can afford to go find another person. Not ideal, especially if you put money and time into them to train them, but there is that bigger room, right, for
Yeah.
a new person to come in, whatnot.
For sure.
But when you get
Yeah.
into the mid and the smaller businesses,
Mhm.
they don't, they invest that time and then that person goes.
Yeah.
That's like hard for
Right.
them. That's
Yeah.
really, really hard. And especially where these mid and smaller businesses cannot afford to pay the dollars that like a bigger company does.
Yep.
The person has to be valued, purpose, and bought into that company. If that
Right.
company is treating them well, they're going to give everything to that.
Yeah.
Even if the pay is not superb, or
Mhm.
maybe the benefits are not as ideal, but how they feel and that value, that's what I want to teach them is like, if you, it's not coddling,
Yeah.
it's not, it's not, enabling, it's not
Mhm.
any of that. It's understanding when you see them come in and they're like, I'm going to show you and I'm biting at the bit. A lot of people get afraid of that energy. They're like, whoa,
Right.
that's like a lot of person. And
Mhm.
they'll try to go, well, wait. And I'm like, no, you don't have to squish on them.
Yeah.
You have to know how to give them boundaries, as wide of boundaries as you can handle.
Yep.
And you have to know how to check in with them
Mhm.
and have to guide them, your expectations. Like you have to lay all that out really clearly for them to be able to roam free,
Yeah.
do their stuff, and see what they perform. And they may think of things that you never thought of and be willing to take that chance on that idea and
Mm.
support it and whatever, right? Because
Mhm.
we are workhorses, we are people that, we're not bazillionaires, so we're not doing it for the huge bucks, right? So we're going off and doing things that could cost us our life, and pennies on the dollar compared to some of our counterparts, right?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, that the smaller businesses and the mid-sized businesses, if they can understand that concept and how to
Mhm.
not be afraid of that energy and how to utilize that energy,
Right.
you're going to get a huge amount of bang for your buck, and
Mhm.
you're going to have somebody that's going to stick around. And that applies to consumers,
It's
right?
true.
Like, if why is Black Rifle so successful, right?
Mhm.
It's all geared towards the veteran, the first responder, their branding, their, you walk into their place, you feel like you're walking into something that you're familiar with. It's
Yeah.
got the essence of it. Everything is geared towards that mindset.
Right.
And there's a place here in San Antonio that one side of the street is Starbucks and right across from it is Black Rifle.
Mhm.
And I used to go to a meeting at another restaurant that was nearby. And afterwards, if people wanted to meet, it was hilarious. If it was a veteran and a civilian, the civilian would say, oh, you want to meet at Starbucks? And the veteran would be like, you want to go to Black Rifle?
Uh-huh.
And they would say, why do you guys always want to go there? They're like, because it feels better, like the energy. You
True.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's trying to explain how to create that environment that's
Yep.
inclusive, right? Because you don't want to create an environment that the civilians are like, well, we don't know. It's
Yeah.
inclusive. It's teaching people how to meet them where they're at. They're blending in, and understanding that sometimes we can have bad days. We do deal with a higher percentage of PTSDs and TBI and stuff like that. When the veteran and first responder feels safe enough to say, hey, like I have a TBI and
Mhm.
sometimes this happens or whatever, and they're still like, it's okay, we're going to work with you.
Yeah. Right.
Magic can
Exactly.
happen, right?
That.
There is magical things that happen.
That right there, we're going to work with you. That's something. Now, there's even more overlap between some of the areas we talk about because
Yeah.
when I go and speak to a company, business, small business, whatever it is, heck, even schools,
Yeah.
the element that is missed more often than not is the personal relationship. And a lot of owners or bosses or HR, whatever it is, they nowadays are so rushed on their end that they have to overlook the personal relationship in whatever form. I'm not telling people listening right now, if you're in one of those professions, that you have to go spend one on one time with every single worker. No. But to get to know someone at just a surface level, you understand how their mind works. And that's exactly what this work does for a veteran or a first responder coming into a new job. They want to be heard, as you said. They want to be, treated as a member of the team because that's going to cause them to rise higher because it's how their mind works. When they work as a team, they get the job done on the military aspect. But now going into a corporation or a business and having to change up what the objective is to be heard on how their mind actually operates in a personal way, then that company can now come down to their level, but then they can be like, oh, I can confide in you. I'm going to rise to your level. And
Build
now
trust.
everyone's trying to learn, but because they can have one on one time with each other, it's picked up. And when I go speak to a company or something like that, usually that's why all the employees feel burnout is because they do not feel heard by any means. And okay, what's the value of me being here other than a paycheck? I don't come in, I just sit at a desk all day. I'm not heard. My thoughts, my emotions, how I actually feel is not clicking. What are we supposed to do? But that's where you can come in and help these companies understand, but help the veterans understand too, like, hey, you're still on a team. confide in each other and we grow. But that to me has been lost as the world has advanced, we'll say, because
Yeah.
the professional world is now, I could be completely wrong, but it's all money, 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 results, results, results. It's no longer, hey, that's our worker. Let's get to know them first so we can elevate the entire industry or elevate our company in whatever way. We want to overlook that because we're all just a number. That's not how life is, you know?
And it's not, I just had a meeting. I got a text from one of my friends, and she works in a like program management for this company.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Hey, Donna, I just had to let somebody go because they weren't a fit for the position. Like she got in there and then the position changed, something went away, and they tried to make her fit into a new area, but
Mhm.
she didn't have the knowledge skill set behind it, right?
Okay.
It was just an unfortunate thing. It wasn't a personal thing. And she goes, she's an amazing worker. She works hard. I literally can't use her with the skill set and it doesn't match. And I said, okay. She's like, are you still working, with transition? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I reached out and the person was really persistent. Like,
Mm.
yes, we can meet at this time. And I'm like, excuse me? Like,
Mm.
hold on. And I said, well, I don't have any availability at this time. What I can do this day. And
Mhm.
she was like, we can meet this afternoon. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
very persistent, right? And something about it, I had two options: to be completely annoyed and be like, who do you think you are? Or
Mhm.
go, why is she so persistent?
Yeah.
So I said, my comment, okay, I hear you. Let me see if I can do something this afternoon. So
Yep.
I did, right? I texted my friend and I said, is this person, I don't need to know details, and I'm not asking for details because I don't want any bias or anything. I just need to know, is her persistence kind of innate, her personality, or is there a need of some sort, like a financial need? Like, is there an
Mm.
urgency? I just wanted kind of guidance. She goes, could be a little of both. And I said, okay, no problem. So I meet with her. As soon as I saw her, I went, it's none of that.
Yeah.
This girl hasn't even transitioned yet.
Yeah.
So I talked with her. Well, we talked for a while, but within the first 5 minutes, I said, oh my goodness. I said, you have come out of the military like full speed and you're still going 950 miles an hour. You haven't stopped yet.
Mm.
You haven't given yourself permission to stop. And she looked at me, and there was one of two things that was going to happen. Either A, she's going to push back on me, and then I know it's her innate personality, or
Yep.
she is going to submit and be like, oh, and it was the second. She
Yeah.
just stopped, looked at me, kind of took a breath, and she goes, you're absolutely right.
Mm.
And she needed some validation that she could stop. So we had that discussion. What
Yeah.
does stopping look like? Can you afford it financially? Can you this or that? And I brought up some things. I'm like, hey, you have a small child at home and one graduating. I go, those are huge transitional moments in your life
Mm.
that if you try to go full steam ahead again, you're going to miss out.
Mm.
You are going to miss your child's senior year. You are going to miss that first year. And I don't say that, I say that with knowledge. I missed my daughter's first year
Mhm.
for the most part because I was in the middle of, like, literally had the baby and was like at work 6 8 weeks later. We were doing exercises and all kinds of chaotic things.
Yeah.
And I said, so don't miss that opportunity that you just might have been given a huge blessing.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to follow up with her a little more. I gave her some resources to look at, but you find out that we come out the door and we're not sure what to do. So we just keep doing what we know. That's why a lot of people run right back into a GS job. I see
Yeah.
numerous amount of people that are like, walk out the door in the uniform, walk in the door in the civilian clothes, go back into the same job, and everything's copacetic because they don't have to change a beat. They don't have to look at themselves. They don't have to deal with anything. And they'll say, oh, it's so much easier to be on the civilian side. And I'm like, because you don't have to do like base beautification. I mean, like, why is it so much better? You're in the same environment.
Mm.
Because I don't have to do my PT task, because I don't have to
Right.
do our mandatory training stuff. Like, I get to just do this job. And by the rules, I get to leave at 4 o'clock and I am in at 8 o'clock and I get 1 hour, like all
Yeah.
that security and that
Regiment.
nice rhythm
Exactly.
routine without, oh, you're deploying, that kind of
It's
stuff.
true. Yeah.
So I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, but what else do you want to do?
Mm,
And you see them
exactly.
look at you, and honestly, they don't take it kindly. They take it
Yeah.
as a challenge, which tells me like,
Yeah.
I don't push on it. I just kind of plant the seed. Like,
Yeah.
what else could you do? You
For
know?
sure. Yeah. No, and see,
Yeah.
I love that though. That right there is what I'm all about, where it could be anyone. It doesn't have to be military. Like I have friends
Yeah.
that are just, whatever job they're in. And then I sit there and you could see it just draining them and burnout and everything. We can go hang out or whatnot. And you just see you talk to them like, all right, well, what have you always wanted to do in your life? Like what would you love to do? And you see, I've had clients that are like this too. You see just a little moment of, and that right there, that's all I need to see is the shoulder drop, because that means there is something else in there that you have not given your
Mhm.
focus to, your time, your passion to. And then I sit there and just who I am, I try and, pull on it, pull on a little
Yeah.
more. But the beauty is that I feel, sadly, I feel, I think it's the entire world, not just the country, but we're raised in such a way to, we go right into a regiment. The second we're born, we're right into a regiment because it's what works for our environment, it's what works for our family. And it takes a lot for us to get a shock to the system and realize, wait, there's more than just the one line I've been walking. And that's everyone. And I sit there and think of, in myself, that came in the form of painful moments of shocking me, like, all right, I have to take a step towards what I want to do because I haven't been following that path. It's pulling me there. But then you have people that, COVID, we'll use the example. COVID, to me, like I said, was such a pivot point in such a phenomenal way if you used it in a phenomenal way. Because we were stuck in our house and all we had was our thoughts, which can be terrifying to listeners and viewers right now. But at the end of the day, if you let those thoughts lead you towards a passion, what's my creativity telling me? Well, I have all this time, might as well start it. Much like you did, Donna, with your book. You did it as
Yeah.
starting as a Facebook post. And then people are like, oh, this is awesome. You ignited other people's creativity with your own creativity. That showed you, okay, there's more here. Let's take a step towards this. So I say that whole thing to people where it's like, the beauty of having a regiment is that you're going to get a result. Eventually, I feel life is supposed to evolve, life is supposed to change, life is supposed to transition, if we keep coming back to that word of the transitioning warrior. Where are you going to be that warrior? If I continue to play on that wording, are you going to be the
Yeah.
warrior and realize that when a transition occurs, am I going to take a step into the left direction, or have I been going right for so long? Or am I going to, as you said, strong arm it and keep going right, hitting wall after wall? Well, sometimes we have to take a step back and realize, like, wait, life is telling me to go left. Let's listen. Let's see what happens. And that's fearful. That's terrifying for people because their entire structure now got a complete halt. And all right, well, what's over here? Oh, this isn't so bad. This kind of feels pretty good. There's newness here. This is more than I needed. And that to me is where it comes in with the transition aspect, but connecting all your points together with people trying to get into the professional world outside of the military, or what. Challenges are there, pushback is there without a doubt.
Yeah.
But if you are following what you want to follow, just as you did, Donna, doors just kind of start to fall into place. Much like you used the example earlier of like I don't think you used the example of drowning, but you said one step was, oh, the next step was just there. And then the next
Yeah.
step was
It
just
popped
there and
up.
people came to
Yeah.
help. You're following what you're supposed to do.
So it you kind of lead into the other part of transitioning that I think we lose on. And somebody challenged my thought on this,
Mhm.
and I was like, maybe they're right. I'm talking about intuition. So
Mm.
when we're in the military, we are, Air Force ethos, service before self, excellence in all we do, right? But service before self, right?
Yep.
So we are always outward. Like, so we learn the landscape. We have to learn a lot of navigation because honestly, there's a lot of survival that has to go out there,
Yeah.
not just in deployment, not
True.
like literally physically, but like mentally, there's survival, right?
Mm.
And so I was really good at got really good at profiling. I
Okay.
got really good at looking at playing fields and knowing how to navigate. I
Mm.
got really good at having people in places that could give me information to know how to navigate.
Yeah.
Like I was really, really good at that stuff. I think that's why I survived. And I say that because I was the unpopular voice where I worked, like
Mm.
frequently. And so I had to learn these landscapes, right? But what I wasn't doing was inward, right?
Mm.
So, because somebody told me, they're like, well, you do have intuition. How did you survive in the military? And I'm like, okay, that's true.
Hmm.
Outwardly, my intuition, like navigating that, but I never turned it internally to
Yeah.
say, what is it I need? Right.
Yeah.
Because if I
True.
did that, I would have just walked out of the military because that's what I needed to
I
do.
getcha.
But I have kids to feed and I had some obligations, and I knew if I could make it to retirement,
Mm,
then I would have that financial support to be able to pursue other opportunities, right?
yeah.
So when people come out of the military, the one thing that I think most of us are afraid to do is to look in the mirror because most of us will not recognize that person. Not
Mm,
saying they all of a sudden became this evil being or anything like
sure.
that. I don't, that's not what I mean. I just mean that we're kind of all dinged and dent. You know, we
It's true.
went from, you know, the car and cars, right? Lightning McQueen to Mater.
I getcha.
We were rusty and bumpy and the fenders hanging, and we're like, God, I used to be this kind of sports car thing, had it going on, and now I'm leaking oil and yeah, you know, all kinds of stuff. So what happened, right? So when we I learned this, again, it was just me learning
Yeah.
that I didn't know how to say no when I came out of the military. And, you know, people are like, how can you say that? You were a senior officer, you say no. And I'm like, everybody has a boss. And I hate to
Yeah.
tell you, but as you move up, those bosses get harder to deal with.
Huh.
And so coming out, right?
Hmm.
So in the military, you don't say no. You have to work with the people that you've got.
Hmm.
So if they're a bunch of douchebags, you're working with a bunch of douchebags. If
Right.
they're good, then great. If they're a mixed bag, well, you got the mixed bag of nuts. That's just what you got. And
Hmm.
usually the first thing we're all doing is like, who's leaving when? Am I
Okay.
here longer or are they here longer? Right. And then it turns into this game, right? So you've got that. You have to get the mission done. And I
Hmm.
don't care if that mission's done with duct tape and bubble gum,
Yeah.
we're going to be like, fixed it, done.
Yeah.
And we got the mission done, right? So those two factors lend us when we come out,
Mm,
we don't know how to say no. We have to
true.
get a mission done. We got to work with whoever's there. And both of those are not true.
Yeah.
So this happened to me kind of early on, and I had a lady that was very intrigued about my first book. She found me on Instagram, and she had written some books like for children.
Okay.
And my book was a resource book to help people transition out of the military. And so she thought this was this great combo, like parent child thing, I guess. So of course I was flattered that somebody would just find me, and I'm like
Yeah.
a nobody. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And so we start talking, and I'm very collaborative. So I'm like, oh wow, you know, we connect and we can collaborate. What I didn't take into account is her business was branding people.
Mm,
And so when I'm asking questions, I'm actually asking her stuff that's under like her business, right?
okay.
And instead of her is saying that to me, what she would do is like ignore certain things. And then she was really like kind of aggressive in her conversation. So when I was trying to help her, some of the stuff she said was just not very nice, right?
Yeah.
And I was really confused, and it was causing me to get stressed. And
Mm,
so one of my friends said, you know, you can just say no, right? Like you don't have to answer them anymore. You can just like let it go.
hmm.
What? Oh, oh,
Yeah.
wow. What a
Mm,
concept, right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
never crossed my mind that I could just let something go. And
Yeah.
that really helped me moving forward. And I don't look at it like, "Ugh, I'm not dealing with you."
Yep.
It's more like we're not on the same
It's true.
wavelength. This is where I'm at. This is where you're at. And sometimes that resonates and makes this great wave.
Yep.
Sometimes it makes a discourse. Sometimes we're just not even resonating in the same area.
Yeah.
So that energy is not amplifying. It's either like getting canceled out
Hmm.
or it's discord or whatever. So let's just not mesh the energies.
Yep. Right.
And to me, that just takes out all the personal attacks,
For
the
sure.
all of that. It's just like we don't resonate. And that was a huge game changer on how I moved forward with everything.
Yeah.
Because there are still people that I'm like, yeah, I start working with them and I'm like, this is not, doesn't feel right. So my intuition for
Right.
myself is there now that I'm
Yep.
like, I don't like that feeling. So
Yeah.
either A, explore a little more and see if I'm off, which usually I'm not, and B, go, let's just not continue on. And I have never once had to say, I don't want to work with you. It's
Yep.
actually handled itself.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it's crazy, but I've had people that would come to some of my events, they'd be right there, but they would be behind the scenes, running their mouth, doing whatever. And I just back my energy away. I
Yep.
don't challenge them. I just don't let them have that energy. And what happens? They've come off of, groups that we've been in. They
Yep.
stop showing up at my events. They all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I never had to say anything. I just said, "Yeah, my
Yeah,
energy stays here. It's
for
okay."
sure.
They could be going through something, and it could be projected onto me.
Yep.
I don't know.
That's good.
I have a solid sense of myself. I know that
Yep.
I'm not a mean person. I'm very collaborative. And then the right people come in. It's like, boom, like you and I went two
Yep.
hours, right? And we're like,
Right.
whoa. And we both just kind of looked at each other like, wow, we didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I even had lunch with Bianca and I was like, I met Billy. He goes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, that was wild. And I said, we got for 2 hours. And she started laughing. She goes,
Yeah.
I thought there'd be something there. So, yeah, I mean, and the people that want to be around
Yep.
will be. They
For
and I've
sure.
had to really lean into this intuition. You and I talked about
Yep.
flow,
Exactly. Right.
and trusting things are going to work out. And sometimes things go away and then they
Yep.
come back around.
Yep.
And it's the opposite of what we did in the military. Like I don't
Yeah,
strong arm things. Something goes away and I'm like, okay, that's not there anymore. Well, maybe a little bit later.
for sure.
Or, yeah, it's very gentle,
Yeah.
but it's very effective
It's
also.
it's awesome, and I
Yeah.
love all of that. And there's a major lesson for viewers and listeners in everything that Donna just said, because one, you have to be protective of your energy, but you have to be able to, in essence, direct your energy and be careful of what comes in. But there's a concept that rings in my mind, I've said on this channel numerous times, of attachment, detachment, and non-attachment. And without going into the details, because it's so many times on this channel, but that non-attachment aspect means if it comes, I let it. If it goes, I let it. So
Yeah.
much to your example right there, if like sometimes you let something go and then it comes back around, more so when it's perfectly timed. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what, there's all lessons in this for us right now, because if something comes our way and cross our path and it just doesn't, I want to do it, but it's just not the right time. I have to say no. And sometimes it hurts being able to say no to that. But if it's supposed to come into your life, it will. So if it comes, I let it. If it goes, I let it. And we aren't so attached to the outcome that our emotions and our energy don't sink. And
Yeah.
often when, to use military terms, when a mission or an objective is put in front of us and you have to get it done, in essence, you're kind of forced to attach yourself to it because there
Oh,
needs to be
yeah.
an outcome, right? And I think a lot of people that do not have a military background still have that same thought process in any goal of life, where
Yes.
I have to get it done, it has to happen. But if it doesn't, what happens? Does the world end? Does life end? Or does life keep going on? And if life keeps going on, that means there's more here. So there's a lesson in that whole process for us. I always say if you learn the lesson, you pass the test, you level up. So if you level up, you gain more self-knowledge, more understanding of who you are, your intuition, your higher self. So then you can just move freely through life. And when you can move freely through life, these stress just fades away because, like, all right, if it comes, I let it. If it goes, I let it. But you're setting your intentions, as you touched on earlier, for where you want your energy in your life to go. And when you set your intention to the universe, God, source, whatever term people want to put on this, everything kind of just starts to fall into place. Much to Don's example earlier of, oh, the next step was right there. Oh, that person left, but then it came back in a better way. And you're allowing your life to fall into place. You don't have to strong arm or force it into place. The puzzle pieces are going to fall exactly where they're supposed to. It's just life is all about trusting that they will. And we're trained from a young age to hold on so tightly to everything that letting go is so terrifying that we do not want life to fall into place because we think we have to shove it into place. In reality, take a step back because it's going to.
Yeah. To that, there's two things that I think of, right? There's like
Mm-hmm.
the ego, right? So, we have like the what is it? The id, the ego,
Yep.
and the super ego, right?
Right.
And so the ego is the neutral. Like we all have an ego, right? Somebody
Mm-hmm.
said this the other day. They're like, even Mother Teresa has an ego. And the ego is the part that we want the world to see, is that what we portray, right? So the example they used was Mother Teresa. She wanted the world to see she was a compassionate person. She
Mhm.
put that forth. That was her ego, right? But then there's the super ego and the id, like that. And that's where you get into living in your ego, right? And
Yeah.
so, like I said this to somebody the other day, he got really upset. Somebody was talking with him, and the person asked a question, and the person, when he asked the question, was very like kathunk. There was
Okay.
really no finesse to it. It was very like, there it is.
Yeah.
And it offended this person. And little did I know this was occurring at an event that I was putting on. And I found out afterwards that I guess apparently we were about 3 steps from a fist fight.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it got brought to my attention, fortunately, by one of the people that felt comfortable enough to say, hey, I was really inflamed by that, right?
Mm.
And I know this person, I know their background, I know that they have a very, they're working through things in life, right? All
Yep.
well and good.
Yeah.
So they're a little more sensitive. And the comment I made was like, hey, you let your ego get the best of you on that one.
Mm.
I said, because what you don't know, and the context of what you don't know, is that person, came out of the military, has
Yep.
was never challenged, no family, no wife, no kids, no nothing. It's like just the military. He like embodied the entire military, and that's all well and good.
Yep.
Social wise, it's a little rough, right?
Yeah.
So we have to again meet them where it's at and say, okay, great, but you got to kind of get up here because this is definitely not going to work in this realm.
Yeah.
But we got you, right? And so either a they're going to work on it or they're not, and they're just going to kind of get left there because people
Right.
are not going to sit there and go, let me get you up. And I
Yeah.
told him, I said, look, we have to take into account that background. I said, but I'm going to be straight up. We also have to take into account the person, excuse my French, could just be a dick.
Yeah. Right.
And I
Yeah.
said, that is an option, but we don't know that by
Right.
one conversation. That's not a fair thing to say.
Yeah.
And that person was very um, big on telling me all the details of what they did to poke at them. The
Okay.
reality is, I don't think the person really poking at him. I think that's how the person was approaching, and it wasn't really a good approach.
Mm.
So, but when your ego is there, that
Yep.
super ego,
Right.
then it hit it,
Yeah.
and then there was a reaction, not a response. It was a reaction,
Yeah.
and I'm like, so the question I ask you is, why did you react so severely?
Mm.
Because I
Right.
said, that person said some stuff to me too, and their approach was a little rough. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It didn't throw me off.
Yep.
I just was like, ooh, we got some work to do here,
Yeah. For sure.
Why? When you trigger,
Mm.
when you react versus respond, you got to ask yourself
Yep.
why. And that goes back to like when we're coming out of the military, looking in the mirror, and seeing Mater with the oil leak and the fender falling off is not a pretty
Yeah.
sight.
For sure.
And my first 6 months, I kid you not, I had a friend that worked with me on meditation, and she
Okay.
worked with
Nice.
energy and stuff like that. And people tell me all the time, like, oh, I can't meditate. I got a squirrel brain. I said, if I can meditate, and I got a very squirrely brain, you can meditate.
Yeah.
It takes practice.
Yep.
And I said, I did it. And for 2 months straight, I cried, and I'm not a crier.
Yep.
Not anybody that knows me. I just don't really shed tears over a lot.
Yeah.
Probably my background, and very good at compartmentalizing.
Yep.
And the next thing I know is I'm crying, and I was like, all right, I don't like this. Like every time I meditate, I start crying. Like, how long does that go? And of course, her comments like, as long as it needs to. And I'm like,
Yeah. I gotcha.
not a fan of this at all. And the only reason I kept going is because I trusted her. But
Yeah.
I was like, this is not what I consider, like, this was not fun. I
Yeah.
actually was getting nervous about going into it because I was like, I'm going to cry again. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And one time I did a specific meditation. Apparently was not supposed to do this meditation without literally a human guide, like
Guide.
somebody
Yeah.
guiding me through
Okay.
it, and somehow managed to lock all my muscles.
Yep.
And could not get out of it
No way.
until, yeah, it was a little scary. I couldn't get out of it, and I knew the meditation was over,
Yep.
and I knew I was done, but I couldn't move. So my hands were clawed, my quads were locked, and the only thing that kept coming to me was, until you forgive yourself for these 4 things, I still cannot tell you what they are today. I
Wow.
cannot. Until you forgive yourself, we're not releasing you. And I'm like, well,
Interesting.
geez. I mean, I'm telling you, when it scared me so bad, and the only
Yep.
reason I knew it was real is because I woke up, I had tears coming out of my, I mean, like I was crying, right? And I
Yeah.
knew I was at that time. So I called her up and I said, yeah, I think we're done with this. Like this, I'm not really a fan
That's
of.
right.
And so she goes, what did you do? And it was a shamanic
Yep.
meditation with the drums. And
Right.
she went, you did that on your own? I went, yeah, I just kind of picked one off of YouTube. She goes,
Right.
not recommended. So
Wow.
agreed. Yeah, it scared me to death. That scared
Yeah.
me. I stepped away for, well, probably only a week or so.
Yep.
I honestly see it come up now, and I'm like, no, I have to
Yeah.
do that in practice with somebody.
Sure.
Um,
That's
so
interesting.
it was, and I'll tell you the things that were happening,
Yeah.
a lot, and I love bringing this information to veterans and first responders
Yeah.
because we're the ones who are like, ah, oh, geez, that woo woo shit. Like, yeah, no, no, no.
I get you.
Like immediately we're like the rejectors. We're
Yeah.
like,
I get
no
that.
thanks. I was just so broke, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I had nothing going on, and I was like, well, I trust her.
Yeah.
Why not? So let's just. I
That's
did have a
perfect.
spiritual belief, but I'd never really gone through that.
Yeah.
The stories I could tell were just like
Yep.
off the charts. I was like, okay, nobody's going to believe this one. Like,
Yeah.
it was kind of wild. So now I'm like, you really need to explore that mental side. This is not,
Yep.
it's not a
Exactly.
religious thing.
For sure.
It doesn't have to be woo woo. My girlfriend that works with this, she swears more than a trucker probably.
Yep.
But she's very in tune. She's
Yeah.
very channeled, very in tune with energy and the stuff. And she lives in California. I mean, like we were
Yeah.
doing this through Zoom, and it was wild, the
Yeah.
stuff that she did with me.
See, I
So
oh, I love that so much. Like that's my wheelhouse right there. Like when we connect the mind, body, and spirit aspect, like so much opens up to why we're individually here.
yeah,
So to hear all of that, and to your point, and people will know this is me, but the mental side of it, the mindset side of it, the people don't have to be religious or anything, but you're a spirit one way or the other. We're spiritual beings, human beings, we're energetic beings here, one way or the other. So there's a spiritual side to life. To your point, exactly, the majority of people, I think it's swaying a little bit, but the majority of people are born in with a tangible viewpoint of life. I like to
yes,
call it the engineering side of life, meaning I have to do something with my hands. I have
yes,
to, and I can sit there and look at my parents' generations and everything like that. They were mechanics, electricians. They were the ones that worked on everything. Well, you're using your mind in a physical way. Then,
hmm,
at least myself, and I think my generation as well, it's you begin to realize that there's more to just your mind than what your hands can do. You can create
right,
with this. You become an artist. You become a writer. You begin to use your words differently. And so that energy shifts in a way. But a lot of people that are put into the military field, at least from my own friend's example and relative aspect, you start to see that we're trained in a very tangible way. You have to do this. You're using, which is phenomenal, you're using your physical body in such incredible ways. But in doing so, in building your body in such an incredible way, are you also building the other tools of the mind, of the spirit? And it's not to say, I think the mind is also very well built in the military field, but it's built into one lane when the
yes,
rest of life opens up into so many areas. So I completely echo your point of that. But when I get to work with people individually or in groups to help them transcend that to where it's not just tangible, expand it. Because tangible is us not being able to step out when you get into the mind, step out of anxiety, step out of depression. I can't understand why I feel this way because it's emotional, it's energetic. It's not something I can just, oh, let me just turn this dial and go here. It's not how life works. Everything's in here. To your other point, and then we'll start to transit. I kept you for over an hour. To your other points of your own example of meditating and then everything locked up, and you can identify those four things right there. The coolest part to that, and I've only met you a couple of times, the coolest part to that is obviously in this moment you aren't locked up. Your body's operating. So
yeah,
that to me isn't just a physical lockup, that's a spiritual lockup. And as you
yes,
and we could even say a chakra lockup too, where when you forgive or do whatever you're supposed to do in segments of your life, the next door opens. It's not a body lockup. It's literally, oh, this phase. Well, I opened that door. Let's go. What's next? And then you level up. And I say that
yeah,
in a very broad way, but I say it to people listening right now. I think a lot of us get stuck in a lockup where we're staying in that one lane, much to all these transition points we've talked about. But there's so much there, and that's the beauty of life. Is to, if someone's not a mental person, a mindset, or a spiritual, maybe that's the door to step into, and then the door opens.
And learning how to, like, the one thing I've noticed, those little glimpses, like
Mm-hmm.
she taught me this. We would do these exercises and she's like, okay, you're gonna go in meditation, I'm gonna guide you through it, and I'm gonna ask you questions, and the very first thing that comes to you, you have to say it that fast, like
Mm.
really really fast.
Yep,
And
for
I'm
sure.
like, what? She goes,
Yeah.
just trust me on this.
Right.
And so what it taught me,
Yep.
the answer is literally, it's there, it
Yeah.
flashes so fast
Sure.
that we miss it because we're so caught in the chaos. It's when our mind gets quiet. So now I do this test all the time. Like you'll see cards that come up,
I
and
was
like
just gonna
picture
say
a
it too.
card, like on
Exactly.
the, I do it all the time. And I'll be like, okay, and I grab the one that flashes like
Yep.
really quick, and boom, it will be right in alignment with what's going on. I'm like, oh, yep, hit that
Yep.
one. Very
Exactly.
rarely am I off on that. So when I'm working with people or whatever I'm doing, when I start engaging, it's that quick first.
Yeah.
And now, do I always act and go, oh, absolutely not? No, but I trust it now
Yep.
and go, let me just explore that and see if the person's energy is off for some reason, they're
Yep.
having a bad day, because that can happen.
Sure.
Or do I have to, but I know to proceed with caution.
Mm-hmm.
The same
Yep.
thing, like with you, it was like boom, instant. I'm like, damn, like we clicked
Yeah.
instantly.
Right.
And I can assure you, the dude from Massachusetts was not what I was expecting to talk about spirituality and all this stuff. And I was like, okay,
Exactly.
I came down to my husband. I'm like, that is definitely not the conversation I was expecting. He goes, why? I'm like it
Good.
literally was in alignment with me. And I was like, this is like a dude from Massachusetts. And it was super funny. So the same thing when it clicks like that, again,
Yep.
I'm like, oh, I need to explore that.
Yeah.
And
For
then it
sure.
allows me also when things go off,
Yep.
right? So like, hey, why this is not normal. And all I can tell people is like, I pick up on energy. I can feel when something's off. And
Yep.
a lot of times they'll be like, I can't believe you called me because like
Yeah.
my dog died, this happened, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, you just got quiet in a way that just didn't feel right. So I was
Mm,
just checking on you.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
all this stuff
Exactly.
happened. And so if we start trusting that thought process, like I walked into a room one day and a gentleman there I knew, we had a mutual person we knew. And I go, I haven't heard from that person. Are they okay? Come to find out, significant, not good life changes were
Oh wow.
happening.
Okay. Gotcha.
And he was like, I cannot believe you asked about him. And I was like, I don't know. It just popped in my head. I just needed to
Yeah.
see how they were doing. So when that happens,
Mm-hmm.
I lean into it now. I'm
Yep.
not so afraid to, I'm like, okay, it's coming up. Not
Yep.
to be a busybody in people's business, but
Yep.
just like, hey, you okay?
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's like something going on. Sometimes I can help connect a resource. Sometimes
Yep.
I'm just an ear.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like, gee, Donna, thanks for reaching out. And yeah, this is going on. And, either A,
Yeah.
let's meet for lunch, or B, I
Yep.
just need some time. No
Exactly.
problem.
But
Or when it goes off,
yep.
and there is a line, and I'll say this part and let you
Yeah. Yeah. Of
choose
course.
the thing. You have to know when there's a real concern. So this just
Yep.
happened about a month ago. There was a veteran we were working with. He worked with me a lot, very gifted, very talented person, and got quiet. And he has some health issues, and I knew that stuff. And at about a week, I was like, he's not responding to me. And not that I think I'm anything important, but we had this very specific relationship. And in our group, they knew like, well, he's not talking to me, but he's probably talking to Donna. Like it
Mm,
was kind of one of those things. So I went to them and I'm like, hey, have you heard from so and so? No. Have you heard from
gotcha.
so and so? No. They're like, have you heard from him? I'm like, no. They're like, oh crap. They
Yeah.
knew that I was the last kind of stance on that. So turned into wellness check, got a
Yep.
hold of a family member. Fortunately, it was okay. Just very, 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 very severe anxiety that was stopping that
Gotcha.
person.
Yep.
Came up for air. I checked on him every week,
Yep.
checked in with his mother. That was the biggest thing. Everything was okay ish.
Yep.
And then one day I said, okay, sending an email. If this doesn't bring him out, I'm literally going to go to his house because this is now we're past, like
Yeah.
we've gone into the trough and it looks like we're trying to unpack our bags there and we can't do that. Right.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
then there's times where you have to step forward. But what I noticed is we're kind of like pack animals, right? So that dog's not smelling right, it's not acting right, whatever. Okay, we're just gonna turn away. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We need
Yeah.
to turn in.
Yeah.
So, and it's not because people are mean, it's not because people are rude, it's because they don't really know what to do.
Yep.
And that was like, my whole background in the military nursing and what I did. So I was like, we need to check. So the email went, and I had already had it set up. Matter of fact, with Bianca, I had told her,
Uh-huh.
if this doesn't work, you and I are I'm bringing her specifically because she
Yeah.
does the resiliency work.
Right.
And he responds, he goes, and he said, I didn't even read your email. I go, what made you respond? He goes, I don't know.
Yep.
So that led to a conversation. We went and had, coffee, we talked. And now I said, look, it's okay that it happened. I said, not ideal. None of that's ever ideal, but it made an awareness of an area you have to work on. Because
Yeah.
although it happened, that can't be your go-to. That cannot be how life goes, right? So
Yeah.
now we need to work on that. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to find the right fit for him to
Yep.
get him to a place where he can continue to move forward.
Yep.
I personally think he was actually doing well and getting ready to level up. And it's like the dark room, light room, right? You go in the dark room, it's got the broken glass, the jagged edges, the door's half broke, there's water stains everywhere, and it's dark. And then there's this beautiful room that has the
Mm.
luxurious couch and the bedding, and it's beautiful and the open air. And they stick their head in there like, wow, but they're like, yeah, that's probably not real. I'm going to go back over here where it's safe because I
Yep.
know my way around the dark, dank,
For
crappy
sure.
room. And I
Exactly.
brought that analogy up, and he goes, could be part of it. He's like,
Yeah.
it could be. And I said, it's like, I call it the level up flu,
Yep.
like you're
It's
getting
true.
ready. People were recognizing you for what you were doing. And that light, you don't trust it. You don't trust it's going to stay. You're going to
Yep.
get into it. And then you're like, somebody's going to take this away from you. And the reality is, it's about you.
Yeah.
You just being you. You're moving up because you're making good choices and you're doing good
Exactly.
things and you're
Right.
being authentic. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so that's where we are now. Like we're working on that, right?
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. There was a glitch, and it's okay. It was to me a place that the universe, God, whoever was saying, "Hey, before you get up here, you got to work on this. We're
Yep.
going to let you get over
Exactly.
there, but you're not quite ready because you haven't healed this wound.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
work on that, and then you're going to do fine."
100%. Oh, I
Yeah.
love all of that, Donna. That's so spot on. And to we'll unpack it a little bit, and then we'll kind of bring this whole thing home. But I want people to understand that everything Donna just went in is 100% true, not just for a military veteran, but for all of us. Because when I
Mhm.
worked directly in the therapy field years ago, that was the process I'd have to help clients through with stepping out of anxiety, with stepping out of depression, with stepping out of anger, whatever it is. Regardless of age, we go through that process where we could be doing great, we could be taking all these steps, and then we hit a wall, and that's us. The wall is us trying to leave our comfort zone, and then we run
Yes.
back. Much to Don's example of the dark rooms, thumbs up right there for people viewing from Riverside. But so to take a step back, where do I go back into the dark room that I've known for so long, and yet things have gotten good, but I'm okay with them getting good? And some people choose
Yes.
that because they're not ready to step through the comfort
Yes.
zone or to step through that fear. But when you can trust yourself and step through into that new room, into that new level, you realize, like, oh my goodness, I was so meant to do this. And you start to
Yeah.
see it all fall into play. But to your point specifically, Don, of how that all transpired was because you acted on your intuition. And for people listening and how you can grow your intuition, you can do a card game aspect, like Donna said. You just kind of, you can kind of just see it grow. But also, the more times a thought crosses your mind and you act on it in a positive way, not just an impulse, but you act on it in some way, you find that it becomes so much easier to hear your intuition, to hear your highest self. If you come from a religious background, I believe that's the Holy Spirit talking to you, where you can get that little nudge in the right direction and then you step into that area. And very often it's going to be leaving a comfort zone for the initial moment where, oh, should I take this left or should I go right? And you follow your heart, you go left like you're supposed to do. And then cool, you got to your destination. But then you realize on the news earlier, if you went right, you would have got stuck in 3 hours of traffic, and you just follow that little nudge, and that could
That
be something.
literally happened to me the other day. I
Right?
literally was supposed to go to an event, and I was like, oh, I'm not feeling this like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta this and that. And I actually said to my husband, I'm like, I'm not going to this event. And he's
Yep.
like, really? And it was just such a sudden like change. And like, I was like, kind of like, I don't want to do it. And
Yeah.
come to find out where I had to go was literally shut down. I would have
Gotcha.
never made it. I would have been stuck in traffic.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. But that's the whole thing. You trust it. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. And
Yeah.
you trust the intuition. So for people listening, you can do this at any moment. You can test
Oh,
yourself.
yes.
And then the skill grows much like a muscle in the gym. When you use it, you start to grow it. It starts to become stronger. You start to hear it more. Intuition is one of the greatest things you can grow in your life because it's going to help you in every area of your life. And every time
Yes.
you act on it, you step through that little comfort zone fear and whatever area it is that you're stepping through, but you become stronger and you start to trust yourself more. But to all that point, Donna, let's kind of bring everyone home right now. There's one more point I want us to talk about, which
Sure.
is your upcoming event or next year's event of Ride for Heroes. Let's talk about that because you've unpacked a
Sure.
little bit about transitioning and helping veterans and the whole 9 yards, but you do so much work to help people. Let's give other people an idea about this and maybe how they can also help you with bringing this to more people for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on, like, I have a business side. I
Mhm.
have a nonprofit side called Transitioning Warrior Foundation. We call it fiscal sponsor. So Coming Home Well is the 501(c)(3). That's what my podcast is under.
Mhm.
And they uh, I'm underneath them as the sponsoree, right? And we go forward. I act as outreach. I act as a nonprofit also, and I do all this advocacy work under this nonprofit. So we have everything from educational events, art classes. We have a veteran breakfast. A veteran and first responder breakfast. I always say that's the first step into kind of our world.
Mhm.
And everything we do is with intention to bring a relaxed environment and bring resources to the veterans. We have sporting events, like we have a soccer game coming up in October
Nice.
25th.
Mm.
But unfortunately, free is not free as much as I want it to be. And I don't get paid a penny. I can promise you that. So we need to have funds to be able to do all this stuff. So the long and short of it is we have a Marine. His name is James Eastland.
Mhm.
And I'm putting Marine out there with intention because when you hear the story, you'll understand it. And James is also a dad, a husband, and an ultra marathoner. And he has done the Transamerica nonstop bike ride, which goes from Astoria, Oregon, all the way to Yorktown, Virginia. He's done that in the past successfully. He did it in 25 days with an injury and with a broken, like a bike problem. And he still made it in 25 days. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So the short version is he decided he's doing this again, and it was just him doing it, and it's self-sustained, meaning he has to find his own food, his own
Yeah.
sleep, everything. And I said, James, are you riding for anybody? And he's like, what are you thinking? And I said, do you want to ride for the foundation? And he's like, absolutely. But because he's a Marine, he's going down one way and then turning around and going back to Astoria, Oregon, which will be a total of about 83 to 8,500 miles, depending on the route he takes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And since it's self-sustained, he has to get hotel, get food. So our goal with this is to raise $50,000. So we have sponsorship opportunities, and then we have people that if they just want to donate to help pay for hotel room, food, we have that because just to get the ride, it's $12,500 just to do
Yeah.
that part.
Wow.
And then above that, everything goes to the foundation. We're doing that to obviously raise the awareness and get all these opportunities and get the veteran first responders connected, and help them thrive. Our goal is to empower them with the resources so they can thrive in their transition, right?
Mm.
So it's fun. I tell people, like, even if you can't donate, I just want people to go to the Facebook group. It's called
Yeah.
the Ride for Heroes, and it's a
Okay.
Facebook group under the Transitioning Warrior, and follow it and
Yeah.
have fun. Like he did a training ride and it went from San Antonio to Nashville and back. And that was 2,100 miles, just a training ride.
Yeah.
And he has another one coming up that's going to be local. And we're going to be having people guess how many days it's going to take them. And the person closest we're going to like give them a t-shirt and do
Okay.
things like that, right? We want it to be fun. And really
Yeah.
my ultimate goal is to make this movement because the world's a little chaotic right now and everybody's really stressed. And kind
Sure.
of much like I did with the pandemic parodies, I kind of just want to get everybody focused on something inspiring and fun.
Yep.
And that's going to do good for like a lot of veterans and first
Yeah.
responders and their families. So even if somebody can't donate, they can go to the Ride for Heroes Facebook page, like the page, comment, share it, do all
Nice.
that. If they go to, it's rebel llc.com /bike race. If you
Mm-hmm.
go to that, you'll see our page and it talks about James and what he's doing, has a little thermometer there, shows how much we've raised, and it has links to donation.
Nice.
Whether you want to sponsor or just be a donator, you can donate in honor of people. There's a place that you can put in memory of or in honor of.
Yep.
We put it on a marquee that's on the website. So we really do everything to just, we want to make this movement. I want
Yeah.
to make this nationally known. I want people to get excited. James
Awesome.
says the thing that inspires him the most is when people reach out to him. So we're going to get a Google telephone number
Okay.
that people could, reach to and they can text him. So when he takes breaks, he can,
That's cool.
read them. Yeah, I want it to be inspiring. I want
Yeah.
people to focus on something that's really just good,
Yeah.
and,
For
the
sure.
rest will take care of itself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome. I love it,
I'm
Donna. That's
excited.
phenomenal. And for people listening, she just gave the links right there, but you can click on the YouTube description. You're going to see it right there. You can click right on for the Facebook page, click right on for the website, and you can go help. You can go, get the number, text them while he's there on the ride. But I love that you guys are doing something that's creating a positive impact. Because to your point,
Yeah,
yes, especially the last week, there's a lot going on. We'll just say that
yeah,
for whenever
it
people watch this,
is.
there's a lot going on at the time of this video, but
Yeah,
to help people step out of that stress and really step into some good, that's what makes everything better.
and
Not
he's
just saying,
just a
oh,
good
good.
person. He's charismatic, and he always says like, "Oh, I hate talking because of my southern voice." I'm like, "Your southern voice is what draws people to
That's
you. Like,
awesome.
don't worry about that." He's got the Texas good old
Yeah,
boy,
that's cool.
accent, and he's very inspiring to his kids. I mean, he's just a good person. I know his whole family. When he did the yo-yo from Nashville and back, he was coming rode by my house, and they had it set up that they were going to have like this. He's like, I got it. There's a motorcycle. It's going to come in. It's going to bring me all the way to the Alamo. That's where he wanted to be.
Okay.
And I'm over here, like, as a mom, kind of biting my nails. I'm like, God, please don't let him get hit,
Yeah.
like, on the way in, right? Because it's the city, right? So the motorcade thing fell apart. And next thing, my husband's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to find a bike rider. And I went out to find him. He was just up the road, fortunately, in the rural area.
Okay.
And I paced him all the way in. And I said, we're not going the highway. We're going to get killed. Like, that can't
Yeah.
happen. So we went the back road, and I paced him from my house to the Alamo, which is a good 20 miles. And this is city, so it takes a long time, right?
Yep.
All the way to downtown to the Alamo. And he paced at 20 miles per hour at the end of a 2,100-mile bike ride.
That's crazy.
And
Wow.
I was like, you're nuts. And
Yeah.
so
Wow.
I fully believe that he will do this.
It's
He is
awesome.
very gung ho to raise this money. And he always tells me, Donna, if we don't do it, I feel like I'm a failure. I'm like, you're not. Like, don't worry about that part.
Yep.
Let's just keep talking about it. Let's just keep pushing it forwards.
Cool.
I promised his wife that I would handle any catastrophes that happened.
Yes.
And the reality is, he's 48. He'll be 48
Okay.
for the ride. And this will probably be his last ride
Okay.
on the
Gotcha.
ultra marathon side. So we
Wow.
want to make this amazing all the way around.
That's
So
cool.
that's our
I love
goal.
it.
Yeah.
I love it, Donna. Guys, like we just said, go click on the link, go learn more about it, go help in any way, donate, like the Facebook page, but play a role and lend a hand for that matter. But Donna, I appreciate all the time today. I got two last quick questions for you before we say bye to everyone. One, you mentioned some links, but where can they find more about you? Whether it's an Instagram, social media, website, where else can they learn more about you for that matter?
So we're on everything
Mhm.
for the most part. So we're on Instagram, The Transitioning Warrior.
Mhm.
We're on Facebook, The Transitioning Warrior. Look for the book. I left the book there because it's easy to find
Okay.
the book.
Yeah.
So instead of some logo, I'm like, here, look for the book.
Okay. Yeah.
So you'll find that. And we are on Twitter, and we're on well, X, I guess it's called.
Yeah.
And then we're on LinkedIn under my name for
Yep.
LinkedIn. You'll see the posts there and stuff. And then you can also go to Coming Home Well, which is our like parent nonprofit and our parent podcast. And there is even more there. So you can
Nice.
find our network of 17 podcasts.
It's
You
awesome.
can find a 24/7 radio stream that we have there that is all geared towards veteran first
Nice.
responders, their families. It's rock music. It's all geared towards that. We have a lot of things that are going to be coming up with that.
Hmm.
We're expanding that even more. There's so much going on that like I swear some days my head just goes in
Yeah.
circles. I'm like, holy cow.
I get
Yeah, it's a lot. And at the end of the day, it's very easy to get a hold of us. I answer all the social media. Like if
Mhm.
you reach out through Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, X, I'm the one that answers all of that. You
Cool.
know, I'll be the one answering it. So if you have a question, don't hesitate. You
Mm.
know, if they're really caught, they can just reach out to you. You and I talk.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
always said, I'm like, oh, Billy and I will be talking more, you know.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's very easy to get a hold of us. And once I email you, you'll even have my phone number because it's right in the
There you go.
signature block. It's me.
That's
Here I
awesome.
am. It's
That's
me.
awesome.
Yeah, we have some help, but a lot of it is just us getting it done. We're
Yeah.
doing it because we really believe in it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Guys, you're about to see all those links roll in the credits, but again, they're going to be in the YouTube description. Last question, Donna. What is a lasting message you want to leave with everyone before we close this whole thing out right now?
People need to lead with love right now. A lot
Okay.
of grace, a
Yeah.
lot of compassion, and look for the good. When you
Mm.
are looking towards the good, your mind is going to continue to seek that out. It's the RAS, was it
Yep.
reticulating activating
Yep.
system, right, in our brain.
Hmm.
And when we are engaging the RAS,
Yep.
it will continue to feed what we're looking for. Believe it or not, I mean, I think you'll agree, we are like our own social media algorithm,
It's
right?
true. It's very true.
It really is what it is. And so the algorithm has just learned how to map what we're getting attracted towards, and it feeds us more of that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the dark all the time, you're going to find it. But
Hmm.
if you are trying to find the silver lining, and I am telling you, there is silver lining in even some of the harshest situations.
100%.
If you can try to find that and at least get a pinky into that, it's going to lead you to the next one. It doesn't mean that you ignore and put your head in the sand for what's going on, but you just lean towards what are we learning from this?
Yep.
Or that was a good thing. I'll leave you with this. I was having a really hard day the other day, and I have a blog called Taking Off the Armor. I haven't written into it a year, and yesterday was the first time in over a year. I was having
Wow.
a really hard time. And I was really asking myself, like, what the hell am I doing? And this is like no joke. This is not a marketing thing. I really did just sat there walking my dog and I was struggling. And there's a tree that's on my walk and it's a huge tree and it's actually held up by posts. And I just went over to it and I leaned against it and I cried.
Yeah.
I'm not a crier, but I did. I just kind of broke down and I was teary eyed. And I looked over and I saw some trash underneath. And I went over to the trash and I picked up one was a swim goggle. And then there was another piece of what I thought was trash. And it wasn't. It was this. I'll show you.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can see it. Let's
A little
see.
blurry
Can you
right
see
now.
it?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There it is.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see what that is, but it's a little angel
I
painted
was
on a
just about to
rock.
say, it looks like an angel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, like random. And it was sitting
Yep.
like I was against a tree and it was right in my line of sight.
There's your
And I
sign
just
right
looked
there.
down at it
Yep.
and I didn't have my glasses. That's why I thought it was trash because I couldn't see
Okay.
it clearly. So when I went to pick it up, it was a rock with an angel on it. And
That's
I was
awesome.
like, okay.
What more do you need?
Okay.
There
Yeah. And
it
I
is.
sat down and I wrote this little 2-minute blog, and literally just
Nice.
raw, just kind of wrote it, put it out there. Didn't even post it on my different stuff. I wrote it. It's in my blog.
It's
I
awesome.
didn't market it anywhere. I just put it there for people to look at if
Yeah.
they want to, because it was just me like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Um,
It's awesome.
and just trying to process stuff. So
Yeah.
there was my sign, like, keep going, like,
Yep.
you're
For
okay.
sure.
I didn't feel
It's
like it,
awesome.
but I was like, okay, I'm okay. And I just had to tell myself that even though I didn't feel like it. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is like, look, it is there. It
It's
is
there.
always there. We've just got to find it, you know?
100%. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. Leave with love, and the signs are always there without a doubt. But I appreciate that, Donna. I appreciate this entire conversation. I would love to have you back on here, and we can unpack more of these areas for people.
We
But
should.
right, 100%, we'll make it happen. But I thank you guys for tuning in. As always, please like this message on YouTube and hit that thumbs up button below. Share it to someone who you feel needs to hear it. Maybe it is a veteran transitioning out of the military. Maybe it's someone else transitioning another part of their life. If at any moment during our talk someone popped in your mind because they needed that segment, whatever it was, share it to them. Not even to share Donna and the work she's doing, not even to share me, but to help someone and lend a hand. That's all I'm asking for. And please subscribe to Once a Week if you've not already. As you can see, that number is going up every single week. And our entire goal with this whole channel is to help as many people as we can. Please subscribe and become a part of it. Lend a hand, share it to someone else, but lead the way. You guys lead with that love, as Don just said. And if you're in need of a coach to help step in any of the areas discussed today, head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me. I'll be right there for you because, like I said, helping people is the name of the game. But lastly, again, Donna, it's been an absolute blast, and I cannot wait for the next one. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Me too. Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it in back there. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it turnpike miles. Yeah, it's Bugle signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even have a deal. Yeah, I battle through these bars, yeah, I always bunk a hill. I know that any city I go in, that I be flyer than Logan, and I be flying high. I want this shit pumping here all the way to Shanghai. And my name's not Joe, but I'm not your average guy. I be killing it, east side rapping cause I'm writing where I'm from. And I know for hella sure that I'm right with what I done. In a minute I'ma win it, chilling with all these women. It's a dream I've been chasing and I'm never gonna pace it. This is something really got lost in. Everybody said no and now they all want it. Yeah, you all